Okay, you can sit now. We are going to start. I'm very happy to have this session now and to moderate because we just have your coffee break. So we are full of energy. So we can start. And I'm Luis Kwaku, Manager, University Department, African Development Bank. And I will moderate this session. The title is SDMS Capacity Building. It is an important topic, and we are here for a week, and we are going to have 2 days for capacity building. That means it's very important, this session. And the objective of this session, first, is to hear from some organization, OECD, IMF, UNSD, and Asia Development Bank, what they are doing in terms of capacity building, what we are doing, and what are the challenges, and what are the way forward. And we want to make this session very interactive, so we are going to have some Slido pull. So, and we'll ask you to respond. So it should be very interactive. And so today, I'm with me 4 distinguished people who know what we are talking about when we speak about SDMS. So the first one is Nail from IMF, and Abdullah from UNSD. I know Abdullah since many years, more than 15 years. And Jonathan from OECD, and Stefan from Asia Development Bank. Thank you for joining us. And we want to, I told you, we want to make this session very interactive. So we are going to start with the first question to the audience, not to the panelists. So the first question is, what is the single most important need for your organization to advance SDMS adoption? So use your phone and scan the QR code and share your feedback with us. Is it fine? I can, 1 minute. We'll keep the QR code throughout the presentation. I can move the slide now. Okay. We will now turn to our panelists, each of whom will share a brief 3 to 5 minutes. You have 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah.
The problem is that sometimes the Wi-Fi is not working. Yeah. I suggest that you switch to the mobile network, and then it works. Yeah. It's on the other slide.
Okay. So you have 3 to 5 minutes to make your presentation, and I will start with Jonathan. Jonathan, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. So yeah, you know who I am probably by now. I've already been up here. So I'm going to expand more on the .stat Academy and our approach at the OECD, which I alluded to a little bit yesterday. So with the .stat Academy and the approach that we're taking in capacity building, we're really taking this more learner-centered mindset and a trainer-centered mindset. So you can see these 2 centers sort of part of the hive, if you like, here of activity. In the learner-center mindset, it's about, and also talked about this analyzing and understanding what their needs are. So seeking and analyzing feedback, adapting our approach to learning, creating new content, new services that meet their needs, and really, continuously developing good quality and relevant material. On the trainer side, I mean, there's a lot of experts in this room. We're all quite time poor. It's you know, maybe we don't understand really and limited experience in how to actually construct good learning material in the right way. We're good at maybe PowerPoints or technical documentations, but actually turning that into something that's digestible and understandable by most people can be challenging. So it's our approach here is to really empower them, give them the tools and knowledge to be able to become good trainers and help to sort of deliver good quality training. And this has been one success factor that we've built into the .stat Academy especially. At the bottom there under the hive, you can see this open knowledge building. And in our new strategy where we developed this knowledge and ourselves in actually developing training and delivering training, we're adding this as a new foundation to our foundations that we have already. We take a blended approach. So this is about self-paced learning. So the .stat Academy is a self-paced environment where you can go online and register and do this quite easily. Now with the SDMX Lab, which you'll see in the next 2 days, it's going to really enhance that experience where we could actually, you know, provide more hands-on practice as well and more even self-paced environment where you can do this in a highly efficient way where you don't have to worry about the technical sort of delivery of a solution. And in this process also we've developed you know, reference concepts and documents, guidelines that actually help to inform the SDMX community more widely. And in particular around data governance. This is an important subject, and I think this has also been mentioned a few times. And on the left you can see the figures, so I don't need to read those to you, but you can see that we're quite successful and we continuously grow. The numbers are even gone beyond these numbers that I put on the slide since a few days. I think people are interested to take it before the capacity building on Thursday, Friday, so thank you for that. And then on the right, you know, the .stat Academy especially, and what we're doing is really designing learning paths that meet their needs. So understanding who they are, and again goes back to the feedback loop, and designing these the sort of paths to allow them to build knowledge and skills over time. And as we move forward, and we discussed a lot about AI, so we want to really sort of bring AI into this and how we can sort of simplify that learning process potentially here as well. And also embrace AI technologies to be more adaptive in the learning experience. And from success stories, so these are just 3 of many. I just wanted to highlight these here, and there was a presentation, or a couple of presentations actually today you saw from Madagascar and our colleagues from Samoa and Fiji, where this environment and the practice and the community approach actually has served as a prerequisite into actually helping to build this capacity across the world. And we'll continue to do this. And this has really been something that, to have this prerequisite in place, has allowed us to do it efficiently, that you couldn't do with traditional methods at the cost that it is today. So I'll stop there.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the impressive figures you show us on the STAT Academy. Thank you very much. Now I turn to Abdullah. Abdullah, what UNSD is doing in terms of capacity building?
Yeah, thank you, Luis. At UNSD, we have an extensive capacity building program for national statistical offices. The funding comes from various sources, from extra budgetary projects, from donor funding, as well as from the UN's own regular program for technical cooperation. In the case of SDMX, our focus for the last 15 years or so has been on global development indicator frameworks. We had an extensive training on the MDGs between 2010 and 2015, and since 2015 we have provided a lot of training with a special focus on sustainable development goals indicators, but not limited to that. We try to, as much as possible, as much as the parameters of our project permit, we try to focus on the needs and circumstances of each country. As I hope you have realized since yesterday, SDMX is very scalable and flexible and adaptable. Different countries have different circumstances and different solutions may be most appropriate to each country. We try to follow that. To give you an example, we often target statisticians, and I will explain why, and try to empower statisticians to take charge of their data processes. Because in the development countries, it's often very difficult to retain IT personnel, so that's a real problem there. And what we found was that in many countries, by targeting statisticians, you create more sustainable processes. And finally, there is a focus on partnerships. We work with other development agencies, with other international agencies a lot, and I think that the success of many of our programs is largely owed to that partnership. We've partnered with OECD and UNICEF, for example, and I think that the success of the project in Thailand owes a lot to that particular partnership. We have worked a lot with, of course, our friends at Regional Development Bank, African Development Bank, and the Asian Development Bank, where we have had many capacity building initiatives. We have worked and continue to work a lot with the UN Regional Commissions, Economic Commission for Africa, Economic Social Commission for Western Asia, Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific. These are the three with whom we have had the most extensive capacity building programs. We get each other's strength, each other's expertise, each other's resources, and I think that, as we already explained in the morning presentation, SDMX makes it possible to cooperate quite efficiently. So what are the challenges? The global indicator frameworks are very extensive, very complex, and the data modeling is complex, but on the flip side, whatever data modeling challenges there are possible, we have experienced them, and that enabled us to make a contribution to the development of the SDMX standard, especially versions 3.0 and 3.1. High turnover of personnel, that's a real problem in developing countries, and again, there are ways of getting around it. Maybe the most fundamental issue is that in many statistical offices, many of them lack a strategy for dissemination or data exchange. And that means that the capacity building efforts, they don't always take off in a big way as much as we would like to. Sometimes they do remain isolated and they don't lead to an institutional change. And the lack of resources, I think that this sounds very, very familiar to everyone in this audience, so I don't want to elaborate on that. Success stories, I don't want kind of to name the names, but a number of countries have established very well functioning dissemination platforms, and what our hope has been is that the MDG and SDG will serve as a spark that will lead the countries to adopt a broader SDMX-based dissemination programs, and that has worked in some cases. Not in all the cases, but in some cases it has worked, and that those are the ones that make me proud. We've seen that basically as offices implement SDMX-based dissemination and data exchange, that is accompanied by improved data management. Again, we've seen how SDMX and other standards facilitate international cooperation. I won't elaborate on that. And again, last but not least, these capacity building projects enabled us to make contributions to further development of the standard and the tools. So thank you, and my thanks go to the countries whom I have been fortunate enough to work on a number of capacity development projects, as well as partners, without whom this would not have been possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. I confirm the partnership. And, you know, in terms of challenging, you said you didn't want to develop for resources, but in Africa, we put that number one. So I'm going to to call IMF Nile. Nile, we have a strong partnership with IMF since 2015. We did a lot together, and almost 2 years ago, we started a capacity building project with IMF on big data for macroeconomic statistics. We join our effort, and it is a successful story. Maybe we are going to extend that to SDMS now. Huh, Marco? Okay, so now you have the floor.
Thank you, Louis. I feel a little bit conflicted about using slides in a panel discussion, so it's just one, and I'll try to zip through it quickly. We've been in the SDMX space working with countries for quite a while, as Louis said. Our approach, traditional approach, is outdated, inflexible, and not really sustainable, right? So we were coding reporting forms for countries, allowing them to send us data. And we've just coming out of developing an SDMX native platform ourselves at the IMF, and I think we've learned a lot from it. It's been a good experience, tough experience, like similar to what I've heard from a lot of presenters earlier. So we want to try to take some of those experiences and share them with countries. As Louis said, we're very lucky to have very good collaboration with the African Development Bank. And luckily, just as we were figuring out that our approach was outdated, African Development Bank already had a solution in place, which was ODP 2.0. So easy for us. So this slide really represents where we're going to try to get to. Very much around making data AI ready, which was, I think, focus of a lot of the discussions yesterday. There were some discussions and references to mainstreaming and applying SDMX across the production process. I think that's where we're going to try to get to with countries, but it's a big ask, of course, so it's potentially covering data governance, building SDMX into the statistical business process, data management, and then data modeling and dissemination. Most likely, initially at least, I think our focus is going to be on data modeling and dissemination. That tends to be where the urgent need is to improve dissemination. That tends to be where the tangible outputs are. But that's also likely then to, as countries that we're working with, to deepen their understanding of SDMX and its the potential that it has. We imagine that this is going to trigger demand for data governance, management, to ensure that we have more sustainable infrastructures in place. So this is kind of like the beginning of our journey, if you like. We're not there yet. We have a lot to do, but this is essentially where we're trying to get to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nal, and thank you for the partnership. And just a brief story. We were at the UN Statistical Commission, and we have a meeting with IMF, and what Nal showed us, making AI ready. It is the director of statistics. We showed what we were doing in terms of that. What IMF was doing, I said, no, that's a big commitment. Thank you for the work we are doing. Thank you. Now, coming to Stefan, Asian Development Bank. I told Stefan that we organized the SDMX conference in Bangkok, Thailand. Very good conference, but he was not there. So, welcome to the club. You have a floor. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Louis. And coming back to the global conference in Bangkok, this was several years ago when we just started supporting our developing member economies in Asia and the Pacific in starting 2018. So the global conference in Bangkok was much earlier. So when we started, our support to our region we first conducted a survey among our national statistical systems to get an idea of their awareness about SDMX, and the survey revealed that there was a strong interest among the region on SDMX adoption, but it also showed that there is a lack of knowledge on SDMX in the region. So the majority of the national statistical offices expressed an interest in adopting SDMX, especially for enhancing data dissemination and data reporting, but also for improving data management and standardizing their statistical business process. But they also mentioned that there is a lack of knowledge and training resources on SDMX, and especially that they lack the skills on certain SDMX tools. So to bridge this gap, we reached out to development partners in the region, and we supported together with OECD, UNSD, the Thailand Statistical Office in implementing their statistics sharing hub. We have just seen the presentation from the Thailand Statistical Offices before with this panel discussion. We have then a very successful collaboration in the Pacific with the Pacific community, with UNSCAP, where we supported the Samoa Bureau of Statistics and the Fiji Bureau of Statistics in implementing their data portal leveraging on the SDMX standard. And we also supported Bhutan on the modeling of their social economic indicators. To bridge the knowledge gap the countries have voiced in the survey, we reached out to development partners, in particular to UNSD, UNSCAP, and the United Nations Statistical Institute for Asia and the Pacific, and developed online training courses. We started with the SDMX Foundation course, which was launched in 2022. So far, we have over 750 learners from around 65 countries in the world. And it provides a basic training on SDMX, shows the information model, the content-oriented guidelines. And built on this success, we have then reached out and continued the collaboration with UNSD and SCAP and CIAP, and developed SDMX tools course, where we show an overview of the tools, and we are very thankful for the BIS and also for ILO to provide guidance on how to present their tools in more detail in this course. And so far we have around 100 learners who have completed the tools course, and both courses have high completion rate and very positive ratings. More recently, we have started to release knowledge products on SDMX. These are more summarizing the benefits of SDMX in layman terms, especially how developing countries can benefit from implementing SDMX for enhanced data dissemination, data management, but also data collection, and reducing manual intervention and leveraging on automation. So I stop here.
Thank you very much. You can see that a lot of things are being done by the four institutions. And can we have the result of the first slide poll? Can we have that? Okay, what is the single most important need for your organization to advance SDMX adoption? The first one is capacity building. Capacity building, that's very important. Training, we need time for that. Interoperability, governance, standardization, knowledge, money. I would like the resources. To the resources, so, and integration. Oh, that's important. You can take the picture, and we are going to have the next slide pull. We can move? Okay. So the next question is, what type of support will benefit you most? What type of support will benefit you most? Scan the QR code and provide your feedback. So now let's turn to my left. Yeah? You did the easiest part, your presentation, and I'm going to ask you a difficult question. So to Abdullah, let me start with Nile and Abdullah, to my left. From your institutional perspective, what is the biggest bottleneck countries face in adopting and mainstreaming SDMX? From your institutional perspective, what is the biggest bottleneck countries face in adopting and mainstreaming SDMX? Nile and Abdullah.
Can I give a personal perspective rather than institutional, maybe? So, my background is I'm a compiler. I'm not a data guy. I'm not an IT guy. I'm a compiler. Let me reflect a little bit on kind of what I heard yesterday and what I feel about it all. Bruno started the day by referring to the SDMX community, you guys, particularly in the early days, as the monks in the tower. Someone else suggested they were alchemists. I think maybe mystics, right? So living in the dark or working in the dark, in the shadows, right? Speaking a strange language, time travel, which we had today. But I think the most impressive one of all was probably seeing into the future and beginning work more than 20 years ahead, or to try and solve a problem that was only going to appear 20 years later, right? So this was all the discussion yesterday around making data AI ready. Clearly, a huge amount of foundational work has been done in terms of solving that issue that must have been unimaginable only several years ago. But the structures are in place, the conceptual thinking is in place. So that's super, super impressive. And I was really impressed by the discussions yesterday. Clearly, there's a huge amount ready to go in terms of supporting the data consumer, right, from the AI perspective. But I was a little bit worried that I wasn't hearing anything about support to the data compiler or the data producer. And that was giving me some thoughts around what I was going to say today. But then there was this change in mood at the end of the day where I believe it was Marco was being provocative and said, well, have we wasted our time here? I think for around precisely this reason. Have we wasted 24 years? And I think it was Francesco said, yeah, but I mean, we're speaking the language of schemas to people who understand the language of compilation. And there was just this last session was really, really interesting. I mean, I felt bad for you all. I was thinking, you know, don't be so tough on yourselves. But I think you were onto a really, really fundamental issue in terms of the bottleneck, which is this necessary interaction between the data IT side or the container side and the content side, which is the compiler. So a little bit of personal perspective. I've been involved in the development of 4 methodological guides, 2 as editors. I never paid any attention to dissemination. Okay, so now it's my turn for the self-flagellation, if you like, right, in the closing session. if I take the CPI manual as an example, it's 2 volumes, it runs to almost 1,000 pages. Okay? In terms of data dissemination, there's 11 bullet points. Okay, not 11 pages, not 11 paragraphs, it's 11 bullet points. One bullet point relates to metadata, and it discusses the importance of providing metadata to describe your methodologies, not your data, your methodologies. Okay, so who then needs to feel guilty here? Because yesterday I felt you were a little bit tough on yourselves. But actually, as a compiler, I began to realize, well, hang on, I'm culpable here. Are we doing enough as compilers to kind of meet you halfway? And I think clearly, at least from my perspective and my experience, is no, absolutely not. So to me, that's the big bottleneck, that's the challenge. And today was great because I think we began to see that we heard from country experience that, look, this is difficult, but we didn't hear it was impossible. And the success stories that we heard were, I think, where people articulated this collaboration between the IT and data people and the compilers. There were some really nice examples. Belgium, for example, there were others I don't want to name because I leave some out. So I think clearly it's doable. So the challenge now, I think, is to mainstream your thinking. I don't want to label it necessarily as SDMX thinking. I mean, SDMX is the tool. It's wonderful. It's more than the tool. It's a way of thinking. But mainstreaming all this conceptual thinking that you've done into the compilation mindset, if you like. So the idea that you want to mainstream SDMX into the production processes, well, you're probably going to need to mainstream it into the compiler or the producer mindset also. So for me, that's the big challenge. I don't have any easy answers there, but all I would say is it's not all on you, it's also on the compilers, and maybe we need to think a little bit about saying, well, hang on, there's also a lot of capacity development on the compilation side. There's statistical manuals, there's guidelines, handbooks. What are they saying about dissemination? Because maybe they need to do a little bit better. So this is not just your problem, I think. It's also the problem on the compilation side, and maybe that's an area where you can influence over time or advocate for that, because you're going to need subject matter experts helping, doing the data modeling. That's what we heard earlier today. You need the compilers. You need the methodologists to get this right. And you can develop tools. IMF is developing a data modeling assistant. I mean, the tools are being developed, but you need the compilers with you. So I think that's, for me, is how do you do that? That for me is a big bottleneck. Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion. And I appreciate what you are doing, because in terms of manual and guideline, you have some manual and guideline. We have 200 pages, 500 pages, 1,000 pages. If you don't have tool, it will be difficult to read. So thank you very much for the work you are doing. Abdullah?
Yeah, thank you, Luis. I don't know if you can call that bottleneck, but I would just like to refer to the points I made earlier. I think that the biggest obstacle in many countries is a lack of a coherent data dissemination strategy, or you might say a data strategy in general. Because yes, there are many other bottlenecks. There's staff turnover, there's lack of skills, there's lack of resources, lack of finance. But if your organizational goals with regard to data are known, they can be overcome, because you can start small and you can gradually go large. But for that one, you need to understand what your goals are. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to build up your dissemination? Are you trying to automate your data exchange? Are you trying to improve your data governance? Are you trying to automate your business processes? And again, this is of course way above, way beyond the immediate reach of SDMX, but I think that this is actually the main challenge. in those countries that had either a written or an unwritten strategy, I think that they are the ones who are the most successful. And by unwritten strategy, what I mean is, for example, to have a set of processes in place that had to be upgraded to SDMX, or a fully written out data dissemination strategy that was being implemented using SDMX. And what that made me think is that maybe this is something where international agencies actually can help. It's not going to be easy, but we have, for example, model laws. We have a handbook on, the management of statistical offices. Why can't we have a model data strategy? A model data strategy is something that can be adapted to the country's specific needs. It's not going to be easy, not at all, but maybe something like that could make eventually a lot of impact and a lot of difference in the countries. Other than that, again, as I said, many bottlenecks. Lack of IT expertise and difficulty in retention of IT expertise. A lack of infrastructure, a lack of financial resources, a lack of, I would say, commitment caused by a lack of faith in the project. But if you have that foundation, the strategy, then I think that they can be overcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. If we don't have a vision, we don't know where you want to go, you will not reach you will go anywhere. So thank you for the suggestion on data strategy. Now to my right. Looking to Stefan and Jonathan, looking ahead, how do you see capacity building evolving through one-off training, regional hub, and more embedded technical cooperation? Neil? No, Stefan.
Yeah, from our perspective, we have seen in our survey that capacity building is key for successful SDMX implementation. And what we also learned that there is a need to have accessible and cost-efficient tools to support learning. This is why we have developed with development partners the online training courses. These were especially efficient during the COVID crisis when in-country trainings had not been possible, and we still see that for the preparation before we do in-country training workshops to build the fundamentals on SDMX, and these tools like these online learning tools are very efficient. And also what we have seen when we reached out to countries, that we have seen it, tools are developing and often there are tools serving the same purpose, so countries do not really know which tool would be the most efficient one for them to use. So this is why we also have worked on this online learning course on the tools, but tools are developing fast. So what we have developed a few years ago might now with AI already been outdated. We have seen VTL is catching up, so more tools are coming, and I think this is quite important to address this as well. And we have, in Asia, we have a very diverse region. We have statistical offices, which are large. For example, we have seen Thailand, they have gone very far with their data dissemination, and it always, like Abdullah has mentioned, if we have government statisticians who support it, have it in their strategy, this is the way forward for an successful implementation. But also in the Pacific, we have seen the Pacific community is strong. So I think here might be we have small statistical offices to have like these regional hub is a very efficient way to support SDMX implementation in the Pacific. I hand over to Jonathan.
Jonathan?
So yeah, thank you for the question. I think just building also on what Stefan was saying, these regional hubs are very important. I mean, we saw the mention from colleagues from Samoa and Fiji who went to Thailand, in fact, and actually learnt and understood what they were doing and took that experience back and applied it. So I think, you know, as a sponsor agency as well, we can't do everything. So I think this sort of network effect, and this is what we're trying to do in our community as well, is really have that network effect, you know, that spreads the knowledge and spreads the expertise and builds expertise. So I think, you know, we need to think about a more robust sort of train the trainers approach, having experts around the world that can actually help and support and deliver capacity building in regional aspects, because not everyone can fly to Rome and come here and spend 2 days in capacity building. So this is going to be very important as we move forward, scaling up on capacity building. The other thing, I mean, we all do it today. We have certificates of completion. It's okay, but I think we really need to think about how we actually take that to the next level, which is official certification for XDMX learners and even those who want to become more experts. And this isn't just something that we would like put a stamp on, but it's more a sort of program that you can imagine that you will learn over time. You will make sure and make sure they remain relevant and up to speed, and also ensure quality assurance and relevance as XDMX and the standard changes. Just one point I want to just come back on what Niall was saying about this sort of reaching back into the sort of, you know, the production lines and really empowering more the sort of data producers in that aspect. I think one key aspect there, and maybe Abdullah touched on it a bit, is the importance of an XDMX data modeling governance sort of model. So getting that approach and the model right, you know, whether it's be, you know, centralized, collaborative or anything. We have this in our new strategy, and it's we call it the data mesh. So we'll be publishing this by the end of the year, and we'll explain a bit more what we think about this. But data mesh is not something we made up, but it's you can go and find this, actually a very good book. So this is something where we want to try to apply actually in our community, and I think it could work very well in a lot of organizations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And before moving to operational and practical question, let's have a result for the second Slido poll. What type of support would benefit you most? The first one, on technical training. Second, user-friendly tool and documentation. Guidance on data governance and standards. Funding resources. That's surprising. And the last one, regional peer-to-peer exchange. So training material are much more important. And to Abdullah, he's laughing. You know, the first time I met Abdullah, he made the presentation 15 years ago. Maybe I understood maybe 30%. It was so technical. In the past, it was very difficult. SDMS is, but with the years, he improved. Now he's the best. Thank you, Abdullah. So let's move to practical question to Jonathan and Abdullah. Could you share an example of a successful SDMS capacity building initiative and what key factor made it work? Successful SDMS capacity building initiative. Jonathan, you can start.
Well, I mean, we had quite a few, I think, but I would say the .stat Academy, I mean, we never imagined how successful it would be when we launched this 3 years ago. And you can see, I mean, it's not just about the numbers, but it's about the reach as well, and what it's empowering beyond the sort of online training aspects. So we have a lot of contact with people from that, and yeah, I just think this approach works to a point. You have to combine it with other things, but it's a foundation of what comes after. So getting the foundation right, and I think this is relevant for anything in what we're doing, from statistical infrastructure and the tools and things like this. So yeah, having a foundational element like an online self-paced training where people are very time poor, they can't travel necessarily, and they need access to this information quickly. And we work with specialists, e-learning specialists, to help us develop that knowledge in actually the practice of delivering training. So this, for us, this has been highly successful, and we look forward to continue. And in fact, here I can also invite others if they wish. If they feel they have trainings and they want to contribute to this, we're very open for including other trainings. And more generally, we're discussing also with the sponsors how we can actually develop maybe a SDMX Academy as well, beyond just our regional sort of or individual academies.
Thank you. OECD is is open to include other training. Thank you very much. Abdullah?
Well, I refuse to name a successful capacity building initiative because there have been too many successful ones to single out the one, so I'll name a few. I will start with our capacity building program, which UNSD undertook jointly with the UN Economic and Social Commission for Western Asia, where we provided training, I think, to almost because there have been security restrictions, there have been other issues. So there might have been countries that could not participate, but I think we covered practically all of the member states of the ESCWA region. And what we helped establish is a functioning data exchange of SDG indicators between the member states and the ESCWA HQ. And that was incredible. That was how. I mean, the thing is that just to tell you why I know that this is successful is last year we had a workshop, a really advanced one. And advanced, we were working with statistical databases using SDMX reference infrastructure, kindly, which was developed by Eurostat. Remember, SDMX means partnership. And we were apprehensive. The stuff was complex. Even the technical setup was complex. In the end, everybody in the room just breezed through those exercises, and they appreciated that. And that was extremely gratifying to see that really, yes, we can see that this initiative made a lot of impact in that region. And we know that many of the countries, they are building their systems and they're moving beyond the SDGs. They are reorganizing their data dissemination systems. Well, if not many, at least some. So I think that we built it was a successful project which built a good foundation. In the Asia-Pacific region, I think we've had several projects in there with targeted countries in Central Asia, in Southeast Asia, and again, we were successful in many countries. I don't want to go too far, but I would say that the result of our joint, I think that UNICEF, OECD, UNSD, ADB, we provided together quite a lot of capacity building in Thailand. And in the end, I don't want to say that Thailand achieved it thanks to our efforts, but we definitely contributed. And you saw Tidarat's presentation. Why I would like to single out Thailand is not just because they built a fantastic data dissemination system that made me almost cry when I saw that for the first time, and when you realize that, yeah, I mean, all this was not, it was worth it. But they also built a system for national data exchange, the government data catalog. And that one, I think, is unprecedented, groundbreaking in the world. And it's gratifying to have been part of that. And turning to Africa, of course, our initiative with the African Development Bank, ONS, UNECA, the establishment of data dissemination platforms in several African countries. That also is an example of a very successful partnership, collaboration, and the capacity development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. I confirm the initiative in Africa. Thank you. So to now, a simple, this question is not difficult. Why? From your perspective, how can international organizations coordinate more effectively to avoid duplication and maximize impact? We are doing that in terms of big data. I told you. Thank you. You have the floor.
Thank you.
After you, to be Stefan.
Yeah. So I think the collaboration is clearly needed. How we get there or how exactly we do it, I don't really have an answer. We have a superb collaboration with Momar and team in the African Development Bank. We've worked on around 40 countries together. Like I mentioned at the beginning, just when we realized that we were outdated, African Development Bank provided a solution ready. We're so lucky to work with them. But I mean, countries expect this collaboration now, and the donors expect it. That's clear to us. So if you look at the success of Thailand and the whole government approach to data, and you imagine, 150 countries, maybe 100 countries might want this type of help, maybe even more. We can only succeed here if we collaborate, and we provide complementary assistance. There's been a recurring theme around collaboration rather than competition. Very, very true in this case, I think. How exactly that looks with individual institutions or in different regions, again, I don't have an answer. I think from our perspective, well, whatever works, wherever we can maximize between us all, or compound our efforts, leverage the great work that's been done by the other agencies in terms of the tools that they've bought, for example. It should be complementary. Complementary in two ways, right? It should cost as little as possible to the countries, but complementary too in terms of this blended content between the capacity building, delivering agencies. So, yeah, I don't have an answer other than to say we've got to figure this out as we go, but it's super, super important, yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And
yeah, I agree what Neil just mentioned, that collaboration is key. This is also what we try at the Asian Development Bank. Before we support the specific countries, we reach out to development partners to leverage on the impact and not to support a country and then learning that another international organization supports the country as well. So usually before we start, we reach out to development partners and try to see how we can synergize our efforts. And where we have already successful collaborations, we have regular check-up meetings. For example, we meet every 3 months among the Pacific SCAP region to get an update on the efforts. We can do this online just to see that we are all on the same page, the way forward. So if we have already successful collaborations, I think this is also quite important to have these regular check-up meetings among international organizations to see how we can best collaborate and support the countries in the region and avoiding any duplication of efforts.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And the next question is very important because I remember most of the time when we present a project to our board, they emphasize on one thing, sustainability. That's very important. So my next question will be for Jonathan and Neil on sustainability. If we think about the next generation of SDMX users, which skill and resources should be prioritized today? Jonathan?
Well, maybe my first answer could be join us in the next session after this and we can answer that question, but more clearly. But yeah, maybe seriously, I mean, for us at least, we're trying to understand a bit more about like closing that sort of loop, that understanding of the users. So if we don't do that, then we don't know what actually they need for the next generation of data modeling. And I don't think we've actually all answered that question yet, and I don't know if I can answer that here clearly. But definitely there will be some AI elements in there, we know that. But we saw from the results of the last question that hands-on technical trainings are still relevant. So how do we deliver those in a cost-efficient manner? This is really the important question. And yeah, and governance also plays a role. You know, we saw on the sort of first question, governance was quite high or quite big as a point there. So really getting better at explaining what this is, how to actually institutionalize it, things like this. I think these are going to be critical questions we have to address if we're going to support a next generation of data modeling. As I said, stay in the room after and we'll really talk about that in depth.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, it's another tough one. I think, as Jonathan said, AI will play a role for sure, but I guess we just have to figure out how that goes. Stefan made a point about checking in with countries. Capacity development should not necessarily be considered, right? Just a project, a one-off. We assist countries and get up and running. There has to be that, clearly there has to be that support where it's required, that ongoing engagement and support. But I think very importantly as well, coming back a little bit to what I spoke to earlier about mainstreaming. Methodologies change, standards change, classification system change, and all that implies a need for continual work on DSDs, data flows, all the different components that are required to succeed in this space. So I think that the mainstreaming is very, very important, and particularly bringing in the content people as best we can, and helping them understand also that this is not. Someone mentioned, Jonathan, you gave me a story yesterday. I won't reveal the country, but you had this experience where you ran a workshop and the content people were in the room and it was fantastic. They were super engaged. Workshop ended, work continued with the IT and data people, but the content people were kind of gone over the hill and not really seen again because they went back to doing their work, which is compilation, right? And dissemination is a little bit of an afterthought for the compilation people, right? We talk about, for example, dissemination burden or response burden. I mean, in very many countries, they're actually quite trivial. We see them as big things when we think about doing them properly, doing them according to good governance, proper standards, new technologies. But in many countries, that kind of respondent burden or dissemination burden is the junior member of staff in the corner of a room that takes the results and inputs them into an Excel file or a PDF file and has them published. And that burden then isn't really particularly big. It's, right? Someone is doing a job, they're doing a good job, and everybody's happy with it. So it's again that idea of saying, well, let's empower that young member of staff in the room to say, well, we can develop your skills, we can take you beyond the PDF, beyond the Excel. it's not an issue of burden. We shouldn't necessarily always think of it that way. It's the challenge here is to empower. I have that person say, well, I can do a lot better because I've been supported and will continue to be supported. So, yeah, for me, again, very much it's around mainstreaming and having people on the content side better understand why this is so necessary and so fundamental to what they do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do like this question I'm going to ask to Abdullah and Stefan. Very important question. Over the long term, how can we ensure that capacity building is sustainable so that knowledge remains with institutions rather than only with individuals? That means if one day Abdullah retires, he won't go with all his knowledge. I'll start with Abdullah and Stefan.
I don't think there's one answer to this question. I'll give you several. And one is, of course, there needs to be a commitment on the part of the country in the first place. Without that commitment or without that strategy, your efforts will not be successful. But I will tell you what approach, in my view, is not working well, and or at least is not working very well, and how we are changing the approach to make it easier to institutionalize. Because for many capacity building workshops at the UN, the approach is to bring in, to cover as many countries as possible. So I'm not saying that we're doing this, but in many trainings, what you see is that it's a workshop for, let's say, 20 countries with one participant from each country. And sometimes it can work, but what we have seen is that in the case of SDMX, it doesn't work. We had another approach where we would bring 2 people from a smaller number of countries, from like 10 countries. That worked better, but still it put too much investment into the individuals, right? So it worked much better, and we still follow that approach, but you have to keep in mind that because the thing is that in SDMX, there's only so much that you can achieve in 1 week when you train one person. The real power unlocks when you can train, when people can receive training over the course of, let's say, of some time, like 3 years, and each year they receive, let's say, a week's training, and then they can really unlock the full potential of what SDMX can offer. This is the model we had in ESCO. This is, in the ESCO region. This is the model we had in the African region. One approach that we have been working on to further improve sustainability, and it does appear to be working well, is to target a smaller number of countries but bring in a larger number of people from each country. So like more recently, we have had workshops where we invite, let's say, 4 or 5 countries, or even 3 or 4, but we bring 4 or 5 participants from each country. And that means that you have a core of trained experts who can go back to their countries and take it forward. And even if something happens to one of them or even 2 of them, if they leave, they move, the office is reorganized, there is still that core of people who have been trained and who can continue these functions. This is the approach that we've been trying over the last several years. I think it's working well. So again, not one answer to this question, but I'm just telling you that this is how we have gradually evolved our approach to training the countries. Don't limit yourself to a single training, provide subsequent trainings, and try to have a core group of experts in an office who can continue, who can basically form the nucleus for implementation of SDMX, data exchange and dissemination and management. Thank you.
Thank you, Abdullah. Thank you. Just one clarification. You said that you need to take a small number of countries and you train them, a lot of people. What about your colleagues? we work with you. How do you?
We have provided training to staff at UNSD and staff at other international agencies, and they have been quite active. They have attended the training, many of them learned, and many of them are using those skills. It's different when you train your colleagues, because in the pre-pandemic days, they could just drop in your office. Now they could just have a Teams call, but anyway, the distance is shorter, so you can always consult them. But more importantly, your colleagues are those with whom you work on specific projects, on data modeling projects, dissemination projects. You work closely with them, and in that process, you provide training to those people no matter what. Because if you work on a dissemination project, for example, to get a data set published at the API, you have to explain your colleagues what a dimension is, what an attribute is. If they don't understand that, it's not going to work. Then you have to make very important decisions on their behalf, and not being a subject matter expert, you may make bad mistakes. So in that process, the process of development, data dissemination, you have to work with your colleagues, you have to get their opinion, their views, but you also have to provide at least some capacity building to them as well to make sure that the project is successful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Stefan?
thank you. I agree what Abdullah mentioned. I think the commitment needs to come from the country if they have it in their in strategy, like the data dissemination is a priority, and have the government statisticians or management buy in this project. This supports the sustainability in the country. And the next thing I would say, if there is a support from the management, is what Neil has mentioned, not only to train maybe IT people, but also to train together the domain expert or the data compilers, so to have it durable in the country, to train more people, like Abdullah has mentioned. Often we do like an in-country training where we then also invite like the government statistician at the beginning to give the opening to see the benefits of it, but also to invite line ministries, people from the central bank, so that the entire national statistical system in the country can see the benefits of adopting SDMX. So I think these are some key elements to support the sustainability.
Thank you for the suggestion. Yeah, Abdullah?
Yeah, actually, thanks very much, Stefan, for bringing that up. I don't think actually I mentioned that, but yes, in every of our training, we always bring statisticians and IT experts together. That's a must, absolutely. So thanks very much, Stefan, for bringing that up. If you target IT experts, no, it's not going to work. If you target statisticians alone, it's not going to work either, because statisticians don't have the data modeling skills. But when you bring statisticians and IT together, then you are on a much, much firmer footing, and it's much better for sustainability. Yeah, thank you.
So, give me a favor. I need 10 more minutes to conclude this session. So we are going to extend for 10 more minutes. So we are going to take one burning question from the audience. Okay, you. You introduce yourself and to whom you want to address the question.
I'm Jens Tosse from the OECD, responsible for developing .stat suite. My question is for all of you, actually, and it's a generic question. Should all statisticians systematically learn SDMX around the world? And more specifically, should all statistics students learn SDMX at the university?
My answer is yes and no. Because yes, I think that we definitely should promote. I think that I personally I view engagement with academia is something that's been lacking in our initiatives, and something which should be high priority, and training directed at students is definitely should be a must. But what we see is that, what I see is that it's not so much about SDMX as about data modeling. People who have data modeling skills, they can easily adopt SDMX. People without data modeling skills, then yeah, SDMX or not SDMX. SDMX is simply the messenger here. So I think that as a means to promote data modeling skills and as a means to promote our initiatives, yes, SDMX is good. But even without SDMX, someone who has data modeling skills can easily switch to SDMX. So that is also something that should be promoted in general.
Thank you very much. So we are almost going to conclude. I will start with Stefan. 1 minute, your takeaway from this session. What you want the audience to learn and to go with that. In 1 minute.
Yeah, maybe I make it short as we are already ahead of time. At the Asian Development Bank, we have a diverse region, and we are always willing to collaborate with other development partners. So we have seen today also in this session, there can be an improved collaboration between development partners to leverage on the development impact in not only Asia and the Pacific, but in other regions as well. Thank you.
Jonathan?
Yeah, maybe I will sort of just second what Stefan says. I mean, we're very much around a community, so network effect, building relationships in different regions. I think this is the only way we're going to scale up capacity building at the level that we need to take us into the next generation of data modeling. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Yeah, of course I join what Stefan and Jonathan have said, but I would also like to point out what my takeaway is, that there's increasing recognition that there needs to be a way to bridge production and dissemination. And it's great to see that this is being recognized, because I totally support it. Because very often the gap between production and dissemination, the gap between microdata and dissemination of aggregated indicators, is where there is so much inefficiency that it's basically can sink even the best efforts and even the even the most capable staff. So it's great that it's being recognized. And yes, maybe our capacity development should increasingly turn into that gap and help bridge that gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Niall?
Yeah, I'll take my minute just to come back to your question, Jens, which I think is an interesting one. And look, data tabulations have been around for 4,000 years, right? They were developed in Mesopotamia, and everybody understands tabulations intuitively. You don't need to go to school to be able to look at English Premier League football table. It's a tabulation, very similar to the Consumer Price Index, right? Or any other tabulation. We just intuitively understand it. And what we're asking here with the data modeling, with the SDMX, is for people to go a little bit further and think about publishing or disseminating or compiling their data for consumption in a slightly different way, with a little bit more. And I think that's a tough challenge. You're up against 4 and a bit thousand years of almost intuitive understanding at this stage. But I think if I myself personally frame it in that way, I think it gives me a sense of, yeah, maybe that this is big, it's a big challenge, and we need to think carefully about how we address it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since it's getting late, I'm not going to read my long conclusion. But join me to congratulate the panelists. They did a wonderful job. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wonderful session. So, thank you. We can. Okay. So we have a housekeeping formation. You have the floor.
Okay. So, just a few housekeeping points. Since I was asked a few times, the presentations will be made available on the SDMX Global Conference website in a week, roughly in a week. We will send an email around to all participants when it's available so that you can actually download them. We will also put the recording of the sessions there, so just that you're aware of this. If somebody of you wants to modify the presentation so that we take the latest version, please let us know. Otherwise, we take the one which we have actually which we had during those 3 days here. Then, so as was already mentioned, please stay here in the room if you want to join the next generation data modeling session. The VTL task force meeting is going to meet in the side room. The MES ownership group is meeting in the central bank. So just make sure, you know where it is. If not, go to the registration desk and ask where to go. So then for the capacity training, just a few additional words. So next slide. So again, here, please don't forget to make yourself an account for the SDMX lab, since we have already seen that some people had issues to log in, so please be prepared. Now, what is important to note is for the access to the central bank, you need a passport or some ID card. So don't forget this. In addition, if you want to change one of the sessions, there will be colleagues, so Jonathan and Yamil, they will be at the registration desk, and they will help you either to swap, or if you want to get into one of the sessions, I think we have some room. So please, after that meeting, go to the registration desk. Now Jonathan is actually making this here, so I still encourage you to go to the registration desk and just see, and then we see what we can do for you. Now, so that's on that side. And then the next slide. So on the social dinner tonight, because a few people were asking me, where is it actually? So we put the exact location on the slide with the QR code. So I suggest you scan the QR code here. Then you cannot get lost. In addition to this, don't forget to take your badge with you tonight, because this is your entrance ticket. You will also get entrance without the badge, but it goes quicker if you have your badge with you. If you don't have the yellow sticker, go to the registration desk. We give you exactly. So if you need a yellow sticker at the registration desk, they can actually put you on the list if you are not already there. And again, you see the picture here. So when you go to the location, there is this staircase next to the tunnel, and you go up. Don't go in the tunnel, Go up the staircase, and then on the right. And that's it from my side. And I wish everybody a nice evening. So thank you very much.
So as mentioned, please stay for the next generation data modeling discussion that will happen now. Thank you.